5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you 5 get up and sit down, please? Yeah, I mean, it's stupid for me to sit here in front of these empty chairs, so come on, let's make it look like it's a real panel. Okay, for starters, thank you all for coming. God, so many of you. Let's clear the room of people who just want to hear about the movie. Who wants to hear about the movie? Who's here just for that? That's cool. I'm into that. But yeah, there's a lot of things to do, so let's get into the movie first, and then you guys can all go. There's probably a Naruto panel somewhere. Okay, here's what I know. Not much. No, it's true, because people ask me, what's happening with the movie and how involved are you? No. I'm a spectator. Sir.
We're together.
Well, oh, you're together. Okay. Well, you left your mate?
Well, I'm
Yeah, no, come on, both of you here. Moderator, would you mind giving up this gentleman with a ponytail? Hey, it's cool, man. Tune in, turn on, and drop out. Anyway, for those of you who don't understand, I wrote a book called World War Z, or if you're Canadian, World War Z. That book has been optioned by a gentleman called Brad Pitt for the movie rights. It's actually no longer optioned. It is now purchased. He owns it. He is now attempting to make a movie of it. I can tell you that it has a director, Mark Forster, a guy who did Solace and The Kite Runner. Good Lord. It's had 2 screenwriters, Matt Carnahan and a guy you might have heard of, J. Michael Straczynski. It is apparently starring Brad Pitt. And it is apparently casting, from what I've read on Google Alerts. From everything I have been told, they seem to have a location scouted. They're making costumes and props. I will say this, that it's been a long development process. This is what they call it in Hollywood, is development. And what usually development means in Hollywood is that nothing ever develops. All right? They should call it stagnation. They should say, oh, you have a project? Yes, it's in stagnation. But this one is actually moving, and it's been a very long time. And when it first started, I have to be honest with you, I would have been very surprised if it had gotten made. Because it's so big. I mean, I didn't write it to be made into a movie. I'm an idiot. If I was a better businessman, I would have written it smaller. I wrote an epic book. Stupid. So I know there's no chance of that happening. So many years ago in 2006, when the movie deal was announced, I would have been very surprised if it got made. And now I will be very surprised if it doesn't. So that hopefully is a benchmark on how close we're going. I will try and tell you in the future through my website what I know, but like I said, not involved in the process. So that is the update with the movie. Now let's go way back to the people who have no idea who I am. Raise your hand. Who are the people who got dragged here? That's all right. Yeah, okay. What's your name? Dawn? Okay, Dawn. Where are you from, Dawn? Okay, good. Dawn. Okay, here's the deal. My name is Max Brooks. That doesn't warrant applause. Everyone has a name. Dawn, here's the deal. Many years ago, we probably look about the same age, so you get it. Sometimes I have to explain to kids about like when I wrote my first book. I have to tell them about the 1990s. All right. No, someone behind you who just nodded. What's your name? What? Jordan. Okay, Jordan. The 1990s. It was a very different time. It was a time when, you know, when the stuff that your parents put in their car that makes it run, that stuff used to be really cheap in the 1990s. Okay? And there was like no wars. I mean, there was, but there were places like the Balkans and Rwanda, whatever. They didn't have oil. Anyway, so it was a great time and a peaceful time. And times were so good, the president did dirty things. And nobody cared because times were really good. Now, here's the thing though. there was a dark cloud on the horizon, Jordan, and it was called Y2K. All right? And people got really scared, grown-ups. Like, I'm not talking about like the crazers who live in the hills outside this city who like want this stuff to happen. I'm talking about like adults with jobs and lives, you know, like Dawn, you know, who really panicked and actually went out and bought like bottled water and generators and food and tents, and they were ready. I mean, people were ready for things to come down, and all these survival guides were coming out. Okay, Dawn, you with me here? So the survival guides.
Tequila too.
Right, you bought lots of good for you. There we go. I hope the Chinese aren't watching this. So these survival guides were all about the world, what to do when the clock strikes 12 and the missiles launch and they land on the banks and all these things would happen. Okay? There wasn't one for what scared me. I looked for it, I couldn't find it. It was zombies. I tend to have a thing about zombies. They tend to creep me out. Like, a lot. I have this weird thing about being torn apart by a mob and eaten. I'm crazy that way. Who doesn't? Apparently people in zombie walks. So I went looking for a book on how to survive. Now, Jordan, you know how sometimes when you're watching a movie and there's always like some really nerdy friend of yours that won't let you enjoy the movie because they're always like, well, that would never happen because, and they're always trying to make it realistic. And you're like, oh my God, can I just watch Jango Fett for a minute? Well, your friend that won't let you just enjoy the fantasy and has to try to make it all realistic, that friend is me. Because when I would watch a zombie movie, I would be like, oh my God, why are you doing that? That's the stupidest thing ever. Here's what you should do. So I went looking for a book. Couldn't find it. Because everyone else was out having a life. I did not have that problem. I had two superpowers. One was an obsessive-compulsive disorder, and the other one was unemployment. So when those Wonder Twin powers activated, they came out with a book called The Zombie Survival Guide. Now, I did what most writers do when they write something they're passionate about. They stick it in a drawer because they think no one else will like it. Because obviously, I mean, if I went looking for it and it didn't exist, then who's going to like it? I must be the only one. So stuck in a drawer, went on, and tried to actually have a career. And then I did. I wrote for a show called Saturday Night Live. And I got there, I was like, oh my God, I finally made it, this is great, I'm in New York, I'm going to remember this day forever, September 10th, 2001! Yes! And I thought afterwards, oh my God, well, at least this is the worst that's ever going to happen, right? And it's not like there's going to be anthrax in our building. Yes. This is before you were born, Jordan. It's cool. Now, when I was on SNL, I met a book agent and talking about, have you written anything? I've written a lot, nothing to publish. Found out about my manuscript, and he said, I can get this published for you. And I said to him, you do that. And he did. And I learned a very important lesson. Never challenge Tom Wolfe's book agent to a dare. So, what did I have to do? That's a very good question. Here's what I had to do. I had to accept a label. Now, let me backtrack here. For those of you who've never had a book published or a movie or anything, whenever you do anything creative, it has to go through a filter, and that filter is called marketing. All right, and what people in marketing do is they take something new and different and try to make it the same. Because they think that's the only way people are ever going to want something is if they've already had it. So I had this book, nobody had ever done anything like that. Nobody was writing about zombies back then. Nobody. So that was weird enough. So to then not only have a book about zombies, but a book that's how to survive one and real. Like, I didn't do anything sort of cute and fun. I wanted this thing to be real. I mean, everything down to things like water and food and nutrition and hygiene. If zombies were real, here's how you would really survive them. Just pure nerding out. Well, that scares people in marketing because it's never been done. So they said, oh, well, oh boy, how are we going to do this? And I'm sure they had a meeting, and someone said, I got it. All right. He was on Saturday Night Live, and he won an Emmy, which, realistically, just between us, me taking credit for winning an Emmy on SNL is kind of like my dad taking credit for winning World War II. And I actually think he probably deserves more credit than I do. But they say, oh, he was on SNL, and he won an Emmy. Okay, and his dad, Mel Brooks, oh my God, he's funny. This book must be funny, and that's how we're going to market it. It's funny, it's humor, and they put it in the humor section. I cannot do anything about that. If you want your book published, it's going to be in the humor section. Oh boy. Now, I tried to convince them. I said, listen, you don't, whoa, wait a minute. First of all, that was not meant to be funny. I am not that funny. If I was funny, I'd still be on SNL. I'm a nerd. I wrote this for me, and and let me explain to you cool people in the world, I said to these people, about us nerds. We tend to get a little bit defensive when we think people are making fun of us. And if I heard that a zombie book was out, and it was in the humor section, I would be pretty PO'd, because I would think somebody would be just urinating all over something that I'm into. They didn't care. So it went out there. And look on the Amazon page. To this day, I think Publishers Weekly gave me some review like, fans of Lord of the Rings will love this book. I'm like, what the hell Lord of the Rings is? And no, they won't. Because also I knew that anybody expecting a comedy book was going to be really disappointed. And you should read some of the early reviews I got. Boy. The LA Times took out a 2-page spread on Zombie Survival Guide, essentially saying it's the least funny book in the world. Which I was like, yeah, duh. And then essentially argued that my parents should use birth control. So I was desperate. I was panicked. I didn't know what to do. I had to connect to the people who are like me. So I went to the Mademoiselle of horror nerds, Fangoria. And I said to them, I begged them, I was like, please, give me some interview time. Let me try and convince you that I'm not like Mel Brooks's comedy brat pissing on something that you love. And so bit by bit, I had to sort of build this reputation that, yes, I am actually into this. But, you know, to this day, what did I have to do? To this day, go on Amazon. You know, it's gotten less as the years go on, but every now and then you'll still see somebody like, dude, this is not funny. Max Brooks sucks. And this is another thing for future writers. You have no control over how things will be perceived. It doesn't matter what you do, however it gets out there, people are going to perceive it. All right, I recently had somebody got mad at me because I wrote a graphic adaptation of Zombie Survival Guide. It was called Recorded Attacks. I took the stories in the back and we had them illustrated. And we sold it as a graphic novel. Well, someone got mad because he thought a graphic novel meant a novel that was written graphically. Somehow that was my fault.